Greetings, beautiful earthlings. My name is Star. If you are new here, I don't know how you found me, but I am super grateful to have you. And if you are returning, you're the real MVP, you already know. I wanted to make a video for you guys for the new year. Happy New Year to all of those that I have not seen, have not talked to since the new year a couple days ago, at least in America. And I just wanted to have a little chit chat with you guys. I haven't done that in quite a while, like something that's just fun and informational about tarot that is not a review, it's not a reading. So I have actually been wanting to talk about this one for a while. Like I've had this being my next in queue for quite a while because I am so passionate about this subject. So what we're talking about today is significators. I know that's a really weird word, and honestly I feel like a lot of beginners to tarot don't hear it. You might see it in tarot books here and there, like if you're buying a like Rider-Waite-Smith type of tarot book, you might see that word pop up every once in a while and you just kind of gloss over it because you don't know what it means, right? And it took me a couple years into my practice to actually learn anything about significators. No one that I knew at the time read with significators. No one really cared about it. Nobody really even thought about it. So I've come to have a very interesting relationship with significators, and it's a lot of fun to talk about. I talk about it all the time over on TikTok. So if you guys are not already following me, shameless plug, go follow my TikTok. But anyways, so significators, typically in like a regular tarot spread, right? So if you're reading for somebody, your significator in that reading would be something which represents the person, right? I feel like that's what most people know of significators. However, when you're reading for yourself, or you're just playing with your cards or getting used to and bonding with your deck, you also have significators with those cards. And I think that that's something that a lot of people don't know. And it's a lot of fun. So if you guys are new to the world of tarot, you don't know too much about much of anything yet, bonding with your deck is very super important, right? I cannot harp on that enough. I've made a couple videos. I'm sure I will make a million more videos about bonding with your deck in the future because it is the most crucial part of reading tarot, I think, to me personally at least, because the more you bond with your deck, the more you put your own energy into the deck. I feel like the easier it is for spirit to be able to utilize that deck to communicate with you, especially on a personal level, like doing your own readings, just sitting in your room, like playing with the cards, and spirit is going to be able to translate the card, which is going to be most effective to you based on the bond that you have with your deck, right? Especially because so many decks have different color palettes, they have different types of imagery, they have different feels, right? Different textures, different paper weights, different colors. All of these different things contribute to how we perceive a deck, perceive the energy of the deck, and also how we create our bond with that deck. There have been many a deck that I did not like the cardstock on, so I didn't want to shuffle it, so I didn't bond with it, therefore I really don't know that deck, right? But there could be a deck that's the exact opposite where you like love the texture of it. You can't get enough of the feel of those cards in your hands. Hence, you're going to spend more time with it. You're going to spend more time looking at it. You're going to spend more time hanging out with it, right? Shuffling it because you like the texture. So there are so many things that could make up reasons as to why someone would be handling a tarot deck every day outside of readings, right? And that's very important to think about because the fact that bonding is honestly like 90% of tarot reading, I feel like that's just so crucial to start off the video saying, to preface what I'm gonna say. Because although a significator in a reading might seem like part of the practice, part of the routine, part of the spread, something like that, doesn't mean that it's really gonna mean much of anything, honestly. I feel like significators that I get from my own personal readings or personal bonding time with my decks mean a lot more to me than somebody pulling a significator on me in a tarot spread. However, if someone were to pull my significator in a tarot spread, that is more affirming of that message, right? So this is why bonding with your deck is so important as a beginner to tarot, as someone who's, just starting out with your deck whether it's your deck or decks plural, whether this is your first deck or your 10th deck or your 50th deck, right? It is so super important because when you spend time with a card, right? Let me backtrack a little bit. When you spend time with a card, when you're bonding with a card, there's a million ways to do that, of course, but the longer you spend time with a card, one single card, and you look at all the details and you really take in all the colors and all of the shapes and all of the things that are going on in that card, you start to internalize the image of that card. And the more you internalize that image, the more you're going to start to attach your own life to it. So the dress on the Empress might remind you of like your grandma's nightgown or something, or like, you know, this scenery makes you think of a scene that you saw once when you were little, and things like that are going to impress that card upon your memory, which is also going to impress your memory upon that card. So when spirit's rifling through your brain files to try to figure out which card is going to be effective in portraying which feeling or which emotion or which memory that you need to unlock to be able to relevantly speak on that card in the reading, they're going to be able to access something that you have connected with stronger, right? So that's what I mean about bonding with a card, bonding with a deck. That's kind of laying the groundwork for what I'm saying here. I know I get passionate, I talk a lot, I talk really fast, sorry. But anyways, when you first get a deck, okay, first brand new deck. Speaking as someone who has a lot of decks, the first thing that I do with the deck is I look through every single card and I see which ones I connect to right off the bat, and I see which ones I should connect with off the bat, right? So something like the star card is always going to be important to me, just for a multitude of reasons, right? I have a whole intertwined history with the star card. So the star card is always the first one I look at when I get a brand new deck. I go immediately to the star card to see how I feel about it, how I feel about the artwork, you know, do I like it? Do I feel connected to it? So that is always immediately a significator for me. I believe that everybody has multiple significators for this reason, okay? So the next thing I do when I get a deck after I look at the star card, right? Your card could be like the Temperance card or the Devil or whatever. You're always going to have that one card you look for in the deck, just because you like it more, it resonates to you more, it means more to you, whatever, right? The next one I do is I look at my birth cards. So this means my zodiac cards, which is Leo and Cancer. So I would look at the Sun card, the Strength card, the Moon card, and the Chariot. I base a feeling on those, right? I see if I feel connected to them. And once I start building a relationship with these first, 5 cards, then I'll start looking through the rest of the deck. And the more I shuffle with the deck, I will stop and ask every once in a while, what's my card? So I like to see if the deck will actually give me my significator, meaning either the star card or, one of the other 5 cards, or if it actually gives me a different card. So this has happened to me multiple times, and this argument can be made whether or not this is spirit giving you the significator or your deck giving you the significator, right? Whatever argument you want to believe, whichever side of the tarot deck egregore you want to talk about, you can, figure that out amongst yourselves. But if a tarot deck gives me a card, say it gives me the Magician, right? And I'm like, that's interesting. I've never had the Magician as a significator for any reason. So I'll put it back, wait maybe another day or so, and then ask it again, what's my significator? If it gives me the Magician again, all right, I see. So either that deck perceives me as the Magician energy in that moment, or it perceives me as the Magician as a whole, right? Again, whichever side of the argument you're on, whether you think it's the tarot deck that's picking that card or you think it's spirit that's picking that card or one of my guides, right? Regardless, your significator can come from so many avenues. Either you pick your significator, like my star card, how I was immediately drawn to it the second I started learning about tarot, right? That's always going to be my top significator. Whether it is a significator out of your zodiac sign, your birth date, whatever, what have you, or it's a significator that your deck has appointed to you. Now, the last significator is the one that we all know about, which we all know and love, which is the reading significator, right? This is kind of an outdated practice. I think I've talked about it once or twice here on my channel, but the significator in the reading just isn't something I've personally seen. I've been in a lot of like Facebook tarot groups as well, and I don't really see anybody talking about significators. I don't see anybody putting importance on learning to read with significators. Honestly, I've only ever seen older, long practicing tarot readers use significators. Again, because I believe it is an outdated practice. It's something that was taught early in tarot times, right? I could be wrong. I'm not a historian. But in a reading, say I'm the reader, you are my client, I would pull a significator for you, so that when I see that card pop up, I know that that is confirmation of not only the message, but also of, you know, this being your message. I would also pick something like a significator for your significant other if we're talking about them in that reading. Usually that's only if someone specifically comes to me and says, I want a reading on me and this person, or, you know, whatever. I typically don't do those types of readings. I would prefer my deck to give me the significator because I feel like it adds more authenticity to the reading. It also kind of adds a little bit of theatrical type of shock value, but for the most part, having a deck pop out a significator for you is going to mean more in the reading to both the reader and the client, as opposed to something that the reader is pulling in their own time, right? My significator in your reading isn't really going to mean anything to you. It's going to mean something to me, which is why it's so important to know your personal significators, so that if you're getting that in a reading, you have to decipher, is that my significator because it's saying this is also my message, or is it my significator because it's giving me confirmation, or is it just cards for the other person, right? These are responsibilities on the readers to sift through that energy in the reading. You know, that's a long time down the road, especially if you guys are brand super new to tarot and just brand new learning about significators, right? Don't worry about the sifting through the energy. Don't worry about, you know, the connection to spirit, all of that stuff when you're just first learning, because you guys need to just be learning when you're learning, right? But I feel like significators is such a really important topic to not only like the foundation of tarot, but the history of tarot, that I feel is getting lost in the newer generations in the New Age tarot reading. I don't know that I've seen too many newer books actually talking about use of a significator or appointing a significator, things like that, outside of spreads. I feel like it's something that's starting to get lost in translation. And although New Age Tarot is evolving, I feel like it's also losing some of these things, whether it be because significators are not super important in a reading and we can just kind of phase it out to save time, or are we cutting it out because we're trying to thin the fat to do these 10-minute YouTube readings? You know what I mean? So that's what I gotta say about significators. I'm very, very passionate about them. I really love them so much because I feel like, honestly, although we have multiple significators with our decks, I feel like our significators also change with time. So although the star is always going to be a super important significator to me, it's also become a significator for my daughter. So I can't really rely on that in a reading being about me all the time anymore, right? I have my own significators, of course, my zodiac birth significators, but also I've had multiple significators appointed to me, not only through my own, you know, readings with my deities, my spirit guides, whatever. It's also been, you know, multiple decks will appoint me multiple significators. So that's why I like to stress this importance of bonding with your deck, because I know my significators with the decks that I read with. I know my significator with each of my spirit team members, and I know my significator in someone else's reading. That's how I know that it's a nod to me as a reader that I'm on the right track. I have certain cards like that to be like, yes, this is going to add to the reading, but also it's a little nod to you so that I know, right, that I'm on the right track, that I'm delivering the message the way that it's supposed to be. So I hope that made sense to you guys. I feel like I talked a lot really fast. I probably did, and I probably lost some of you guys, and that's okay. I want to know what you guys think about significators, because again, this isn't something that I hear a lot in New Age tarot reading. This isn't something that I ever hear talked about on TikTok. It's just, I feel like it's really genuinely getting lost. So I want to know, have you guys ever heard about significators? Do you know about significators? Do you use them? Do you like them? Do you care for them? Do you actually use them in readings, right? Or is it just something that you take your deck giving you? I feel like significators and actually using them in readings has kind of changed the way that I perceive readings a little bit, because now I'm not searching in a reading, if that makes sense. I feel like appointing a significator at the beginning of the reading is a way to take the confusion out of the energy. Like, sometimes people who won't use a significator could also be reading things like, I don't know if this is you or if this is your person, right? And I feel like being able to tell the reading, right? Tell the energy of the reading, this is the energy of this person, and we're going to apply this through the reading so as to eliminate some confusion. Then I feel like they're going to be able to give you another card as another significator for a different person to also help you sift through confusion, if that makes sense. I know I'm talking a lot about energy work, and I was trying not to. I was trying to keep it super beginner and super basic, but the most basic thing I can say about significators on a ground level is that a significator is one single card which represents a person, be it the reader or the querent. Easiest way I can possibly say that. If I would have started the video with the definition of a significator, no one would have watched it. But I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I really hope you like it. And I also want to say, I hope you don't think that your significators have to be majors. I feel like that could be a common misconception, that you would need a major or a face card, like a court card, in order to be a significator. Again, has nothing to do with anything. It's about the energy of the card and if you resonate with it or not. So if you resonate with the Four of Swords, you resonate with the Four of Swords, honey. Like, it doesn't have to have I mean, technically the Four of Swords has a person, but not in all decks, you know what I mean? I just mean, if you resonate with the energy of a deck, of a card, and it keeps popping up for you and it becomes like a sign to you, it's probably a significator for you. I'm not just saying, you know, just use your zodiac as a significator, but I think it's a great way to start working with the energy of significators and starting to learn about them. If you don't know how to pick a significator, or you have not been appointed one yet, I feel like it's a great starting place. It's a great little jumping off point so that you can just learn to read the energy of a significator, learn its place in the reading, and learn how to work around it, if that makes sense. So I'm so excited I finally got to talk about this. Holy cow, I've been wanting to do this for so long. So I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you made it all the way to the end, please give me a big old thumbs up. You know, that helps me out so very much. And of course, my link tree's in the description if you guys want to go check it out. You know, my socials are down there, my shop, all that fun stuff. And that's all I got for you today, my friends. I hope you enjoyed it. And I really hope that wherever you guys are when this video reaches you, that you have a beautiful, wonderful day. Blessed be.